Throughout its existence, Path of Exile released over 40 completely free expansions, most of which were successful, and these mechanics ended up returning to the game and are now part of the base game, which ends up greatly increasing the difficulty of learning the game today. Because you need to master all of these mechanics, and there is a lot to learn. That's why I'm making a series of videos explaining each mechanic. Today we're going to talk about the Incursion, a mechanic in which we interact with the NPC Alva. If you like Path of Exile, please subscribe, because I'm sure you'll enjoy the daily content of PoE in my channel. Without further ado, let's go.
History repeats itself.
I'm going to teach you all the secrets of this mechanic, which are the best rooms to choose and how to have a better chance of getting the best rooms, which involves knowing how to reset Alva, as I like to say. This mechanic can be divided into two groups. We can create the Chronicles of Atzoatl and simply sell them in a very simple way, or we can open the temples of Atzoatl. Since there would be a lot to talk about, I can't cover both. In this video, we will focus only on how to make good Chronicles and profit from their sale. Once you know how to do this, you can think about or watch my next video where I will talk about opening these Chronicles. But I can already tell you that the mechanics of the temples themselves involve a lot of gambling, so it may not be the investment style for everyone, but selling them is easier and very profitable. Well, you must have already met Alva and entered her. I mean, in the portal she opened. Once inside you must have noticed that the more enemies you kill, the more time you gain, in addition to having to unlock the doors and kill one of the architects. Now I will explain how to understand this. First, the rooms. Every time we find a room, we are going back in time. When we kill one of the architects, the other one escapes. Since he stays alive, he changes the room according to his preferences. You don't need to worry about knowing which architects to leave alive or not. Fortunately, the game already tells you this in this interface. For example, if you kill the architect on top, this room will turn into a torment cells, but if you kill the one on the bottom, it will turn into a pools of restoration. The architect on top will always update the room. If the room is already at the level 1, the architect on the bottom will always change the room to another room. In this case, since the room is initially level 0, both architects will change to their respective rooms. I'll talk about the best rooms in a bit, but first, let's get into this incursion and explain it in detail. Once inside, you'll try to kill the enemies quickly. If you find a very strong and difficult enemy to kill, I recommend ignoring him and focusing on the weaker ones. Eventually you will drop the keys to open the doors. Here you don't even need to think about it, always open upwards, and when I say upwards I mean this part here that appears in the video. Always opening upwards you will be able to unlock the top. Usually one or two of these keys drop, so it's easy. As you already know, you need to know how to choose the best architect, but before talking about them I need to tell you a secret. There are some secrets in this mechanic that not everyone knows. Many YouTubers who create content don't even know about it. I call it the Alva reset. If you enter any map and do an incursion, the room you did the incursion will never appear again, at least on this specific map. The room you didn't choose will also no longer appear on the map. Because of this, every time you get the best room, which would be the Chamber of Corruption, and this room is not level 3, you will reset Alva. How do you do this? Simply do not click on the Alva again in the next encounters on this map. You will have to open another map, and find the Alva again on that other map. By doing this, the Chamber of Corruption room may appear again. I recommend that you do this reset only with the Chamber of Corruption, because it is what makes the Chronicle more valuable. Here, I will show you the price of these Chronicles. As you can see, in Standard the Chronicle with the Locus of Corruption, which would be level 3 of this room, is being sold for almost 4 divines. In the current league it is being sold for 2 divines. One thing to note is that the Locus of Corruption does not have a very high value in the first days of the league. This is because no one is interested in it, but from the middle to the end of the league. There are other very good rooms that are also quite valuable at the beginning, such as Doriani's Institution, Apex of Ascension and Apex of Atzoatl. These rooms also tend to have a good price from start to finish, but eventually Locus will reach ridiculous prices in the league. It is worth noting that a chronicle like this can be done in just 3 to 4 maps, since you can find 3 to 4 encounters with the Alva per map. This mechanic is also not influenced by map tier, quantity, or quality, being a good strategy for the beginning of the league even if the value is lower, due to the ease of generating these chronicles. The passives in the Atlas, regardless of where it is in the next leagues, it is always important to get these points here. Resource reallocation and contested development, both of these points give you a chance of the room leveling up 2 levels, in addition to being able to change rooms without losing the level. They are mandatory. The other big perks are not mandatory, but they can be worth it, such as time dilation, which increases your time gain per defeated enemy, Vol Oligarchs, which adds an enemy to the incursion that drops currency when killed, artifacts of the Vol, which makes the Alva appear 4 times per map, I highly recommend this one, and finally Treasure Hunt, which adds chests to the incursion that take time but give you currency. Now let's talk about which are the best rooms. In this mechanic, there are 22 rooms in total, and each of them has 3 different names for each level. It's a lot for you to remember, so my tip is to focus only on the 4 best ones, and always choose them, since they are the only rooms that increase the value of your chronicle. The first of these we have already seen, the Chamber of Corruption, which leads to the Catalyst of Corruption and the Locus of Corruption. Another good room is the Gemcutter's Workshop, which leads to the Department of Thaumaturgy and then to Doriani's Institute. Another good room is the Sacrificial Chamber, which leads to the Hall of Offerings and the Apex of Ascension. And finally, the Shrine of Empowerment, which leads to the Sanctum of Unity and the Temple Nexus. This room upgrades all adjacent rooms, so it is very worthwhile, especially if it is next to a Chamber of Corruption or Gemcutter's Workshop. Once you have completed all the incursions, talk to Alva in your hideout and click on Take Temple Chronicle. This will generate an item that can be traded. Now let's talk about the Scarabs. Most of them do not change the functionality of the mechanics at all, so it is not worth using them. Incursion Scarabs guarantees 100% of the Alva appears, which I find useless since you can already get 100% of it in the Atlas tree. The other is the Scarab of Invasion, which makes enemies from the incursion appear on your map. This has no synergy with the incursion mechanics, but can be useful in other strategies. Scarab of Champions makes the enemies within the incursion magic and in greater quantity, which helps to generate more time, but is not essential. And finally, the last and only one that changes and improves the mechanics is the Scarab of Timelines. This Scarab makes the last incursion on each map give you a free chronicle, with the same rooms and open paths, but with the levels of the rooms randomized. Because of this, it is always worth using this Scarab if you have a Chamber of Corruption unlocked, or preferably a Doriani's Institute together, in which case your chance of getting at least one of the 2 at level 3 is high. Now I'm going to do some runs here and we'll see the results. In this first run I was unable to generate a locus. This happens sometimes, but I was lucky enough to get one through the Scarab of Timelines. In the second run again I was also unable to place the locus. Unfortunately sometimes the room simply doesn't appear, but again I managed to get a locus through the timelines. And so, in my third run I finally got a locus directly from the Alva. In all 3 runs I got 3 locus, with Dorians, and 3 with access to the Apex. If I were to sell all of this, it would be more than 8 divines, and that's in just 12 maps that I've made. This strategy works best on small maps, since it's easier to find Alva and do the incursions. That's all for today guys. This video took a lot of work to make, so I would appreciate it if you like and subscribe to the channel. I'm sure you'll like the content I'm making here. And a special thanks to Atzoatl Temple for being the channel's 6th subscriber. Good luck to you guys. See you next time, Exiles.
Go make history.